Hey everybody, it's Matt here from Piano Blog. I'm going to do a quick video today on cheating at the piano. And what I mean by that is rewriting something or dropping notes or changing how something's fingered, all these things where something's being modified maybe from how the composer intended or from how the editor might have intended. So there's different categories here. Now, of course, we have pieces that are rewritten for student purposes, and I'm not talking about that. So, of course, that's totally cool. But I'm talking about, say, if you're playing a Beethoven sonata or something that might be considered a work of art, there's a lot of debate about, okay, is it okay to change this to make it sound slightly different? Is it okay to leave out a note to make this easier to play? And I have my own opinion about this, but there are a lot of different opinions. So my opinion is pretty simple. I think if you're dealing with something that is a work of art, the real goal should be to maintain, to be as close to the composer's intention as possible. But that sometimes can mean modifying the piece. So for example, there are even passages in Beethoven sonatas where I think it sounds so much better if I drop, say, one note in a chord that maybe is repeated where the harmony is already there, and I can voice things a lot better because I have small hands, that I'll actually go ahead and drop that. And this is very, very rare, but there are instances where I've done that. And I think it actually serves the artwork better to make that change. So where I draw the line is, does it actually change the artwork? Now, there's different categories of things here. So for example, the lowest sort of category, the thing that matters the very least to me is what an editor said. And in fact, as you study the piano and get further in pianos, in classical music at least, you're going to find that there are a lot of editors that honestly just make dumb suggestions about fingering and other sorts of things. And I really don't care at all what someone wrote down as the correct fingering. A lot of this is the relic of things, for example, 19th century pedagogical methods or early 20th century pedagogical methods where the editor was being paid a whole bunch of money to go through and, edit this work and put some fingerings in, and then the kind of strict old school teacher would say, well, you have to adhere to this fingering, you're in big trouble, or something like that. So I don't care about that one bit. I think that everyone's got different hands, everyone's kind of built slightly differently, so you really have to do, in that case, what serves the music the best, and who cares about the editor. Now, one level up from that is that you'll get instances where composers themselves will have written in fingerings. And often this will be for a certain musical purpose. So for example, Liszt and Beethoven and Chopin have instances where they actually wrote fingerings in. And I can think of instances in the early A major Beethoven sonata, for example. There's a passage where Beethoven actually writes in a fingering that's very much more difficult than the fingering that someone would kind of naturally think of. He makes you take a passage with one hand instead of two, and it makes the playing of it much more difficult. And you can make a very strong argument that the reason he did that was he wanted to hear a little bit of struggle or something in that area. So in that case, I think you at least have to take into account why the composer would have written that specific passage or fingering in. And even if you don't use the fingering, you should at least kind of go for that effect. I still think, I'm of the mind that piano is hard enough already, and so we don't have to make it any harder. So if you can get away with playing it in an easier manner, but have the same effect, that's better. But then there are cases where I think that it's really worth at least giving a shot to what the composer intended. Another level up from this is exercises that are written intentionally to make things difficult. So in that case, I think it would be a big mistake not to do what the person wrote. So if you take, say, a Czerny exercise where Czerny has written a specific fingering, he's probably written that fingering for a reason, so that you could learn a specific technical habit. And so he's intentionally making it difficult. And this is where you get into an area that's a little bit kind of a gray area, and that is pieces of music that are written for technical reasons, but which are also pieces of music in their own right. For example, Chopin etudes. There are a lot of places in Chopin etudes where you can cheat a little bit, and the question is it okay to cheat because I'm maybe grabbing something with my left hand that he wrote for the right hand, and that makes my life a lot easier. And as a work of art, as a piece of music, it sounds the same, but as an etude, it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to show you an example from Chopin Opus 10 number 2, the very beginning of this. I'll re-angle the camera so you can take a look at that. So this Opus 10 number 2, the A minor, is interesting because the way Chopin writes it, it starts like this with 3 notes in the right hand, and then you have this where you have 3 more notes in the right hand. So you're kind of chromatically going up here and then going to this 3-note chord here. Now the left hand at this point is going like this. What Chopin's intention probably was that you had to take all 3 notes in the right hand and then continue going up like this. But it's much, much easier if you grab a 10th here. Now for me, I have small hands, so this it's tough actually to grab this 10th, but it's much easier to start here with only 2 notes in the right hand, and then to grab the lower note here with the left hand as well, so I only have 2 notes here in the right hand. You see, it's a much easier start to the piece instead of... So that's a really good example of a cheat in an etude. It's a very small little rewriting that makes life a lot easier. But the question is, should you do it or not? And in my opinion, in this particular case, there's so much other stuff that's difficult and has the exact same technical, needs the exact same technical movement that in this piece, I think it's totally fine to do this little cheat at the beginning. Okay, so I hope that you can see that that's a little bit of a gray area there. And in my opinion, that little cheat is okay. Other people might think that it's not. I think it's okay because you're not missing the overall point of the etude. There's enough other places in the etude where you can still get that same technique, but you're giving yourself, for musical reasons, a little bit of an easier start. And for heaven's sakes, the Chopin etudes are hard enough already. So if you can find a little cheat here and there, in a sense, that maybe is part of the etude. How can I rewrite this? As long as you're not completely rewriting everything and kind of missing the point, I personally don't have a problem with it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on changing and altering different pieces. In my opinion, it really depends on the context, but at the end of the day, if you're dealing with a piece that is a work of art, that is a musical work, what really counts is, in my mind, the composer's intention and whether you're being true to that. And in some cases, actually modifying it, I think, lets you be more true to that than if you just try to do exactly what's written. Now, I do this very sparingly. I'm not suggesting that you should always rewrite things, but I think in those cases where it does remain more true to the work of art, I think you should go for it and enjoy or focus more on the art and less on the technique. In other words, let technique be the servant of the music and not the other way around, if I got that right. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment below, and you can also check out my free piano and technique courses on pianoblog.com, and I'll see you next time.